And time now to take a look at what's been making headlines across the globe. And for that, I'm joined in the studio by Solange Mijan. Hello, Solange.
Hi, Annette.
You're starting off with the German elections and the slim victory by the left-leaning SPD.
Yeah, and to govern, they are going to need a coalition, and that is not going to be an easy feat. As the German paper Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung tells us, negotiations are slated to occur quite quickly, but that doesn't mean that they will wrap up in a timely manner or with a successful deal. And as the paper notes, the Greens and the pro-business FDP are said to be very polarized in their approaches. And as Der Tiegel explains, the result of those talks, well, they'll decide who the next chancellor will be, whether it's Olaf Scholz or Armin Laschet. Now, the paper doesn't come out on one side or the other, but it does give a bit of an advantage to Scholz, saying that his ability to get the Greens and the FDP with and behind him as chancellor could be greater. Both men, though, are working hard with the possible coalition combos, as Rheinische Post, their cartoonist, explains. Laschet trying for a Jamaica solution, referring to the color combo of the parties and the Jamaican flag, and Scholz trying to get an orange FDP light and a green one as well, in his so-called traffic light solution with his red-colored SPD. Still far from certain, though, whether he'll get the green light to go ahead with the government.
In fact, it all seems to be blinking on amber at the moment, doesn't
Yes,
it?
Yes, it does.
Back to France, where President Emmanuel Macron is coming under fire for his stance, or his non-stance, rather, on abortion.
Yeah, and today, September 28th, is International Safe Abortion Day, and the French paper Libération has a multi-page spread on IVG, or abortion in French. And it takes a particular aim at Macron's government and how it has not followed through with passing a measure to extend the legal deadline from 12 to 14 weeks for abortions in France. This despite the fact that 88% of French people are in favor of such an extension, as are a majority of lawmakers. They are in favor of it, but the move was axed in the Senate, and Macron has not touched the issue because the paper says this is an election year. Now, the consequences of this are very real, according to the left-leaning paper. Libération explains that not only do 2,000 to 5,000 French women have to go abroad every year for the procedure, but also it is a reminder, the paper says, that in France, even though abortion is legal, the fight continues in the country to the right to abortion, as it does, as we know, in many other countries.
And one of which is the US, which is where we're heading next, because the media there is widely discussing the conviction of rapper R. Kelly and on all 9 accounts of sex trafficking and racketeering.
Yeah, and as The Guardian shows and tells us, the testimonies of the victims are harrowing, from raping 13-year-old girls to choking victims until they lose consciousness, to intentionally giving them sexually transmitted diseases. Now, in regard to the commentary, the Daily News says, may he rot in jail, referring to his possible life sentence, and the New Yorker welcomes the conviction as a major Me Too movement for his victims and for Black women in general. They were less highlighted in other recent Me Too cases. But the site laments that it took over 2 decades to successfully put him behind bars. There were other court cases that went nowhere, the paper says. And the site wonders, too, how many more victims are out there, those that may have signed potential non-disclosure agreements and those that have remained silent out of fear and possibly shame.
And the American press is also extensively talking about what to do with R. Kelly's music.
Yeah, should his music be banned? That is the question that Variety is asking, and a number of papers as well. Would it be cancel culture to ban his music? Is it important to distinguish the man from the art? Is allowing his music still to be played on sites like Spotify that earn him and them potentially millions of dollars, sort of tacitly condoning, or even worse, potentially applauding such behavior? Well, these are tricky questions that Variety is discussing, but they don't necessarily entirely answer them. Variety says that at the end of the day, the statement of banning a music is just that, a statement. And whether streaming sites and labels decide to make it, well, and forgo actually the money that they could be making off such music is, quote, a judgment call that only they can make.
And finally, Solange, the Japanese media is all abuzz about an upcoming royal wedding.
Yes, and these nuptials between Princess Mako and her longtime boyfriend Kai Komoro, who is a commoner, is all the buzz. In particular, as we see on the South China Morning Post, because he's just returned to Japan after 3 years, and he is sporting a ponytail. So who cares that he's sporting a ponytail?
Goodness me.
Yes. Woo. Well, the papers are explaining that this is actually a statement in regard to potentially a statement in regard to the tradition-bound imperial family. That it's a bit of a dig there potentially, but such a move does carry weight as well, because as the Japan Times explains, this isn't your average fairy tale. Rather, there is actually much pushback against the union because of the groom's family. The wedding was postponed for years because of controversy with his family, and some more conservative Japanese actually do not want it. So the ponytail is a pushback, and of course you have to remember that there is a happy ending here. Pris Mako, she gets to marry the man that she chooses to marry.
And that's lovely to hear. Thank you so much for that, Solange. And that's Solange Mujam with a